So 2024, a brand new year with some exciting things to come. Happy New Year, and I hope you guys had a wonderful holiday season. And I also want to say thank you so much to everyone that decided to pick up my Signature LUTs. It really means a lot, and the feedback is enormous. I'm so happy that I was able to help you get better videos and also to increase your views. So 2024 is gonna bring some exciting and new technology, which I can't wait to show you guys. But let's kick this off with my long-term honest review of the Mini 4 Pro. And in today's video, I want to touch all the pros and the cons I've experienced with this over the past 3 months. And I want to share my opinion about this drone and whether or not I still recommend it. So the topics are build quality, performance in windy conditions with warm and cold temperatures, battery life, camera, low light, automated flight modes, sensors, the RC2 versus the RC1 controller, and more. So let's start with build quality. The Mini 4 Pro is such a small drone, weighing only 249 grams and being packed with all these amazing features, including 360 obstacle avoidance sensors. We have to compensate on something to keep it under that 250 gram limit, which means that the drone feels a little bit plasticky and not as exclusive as the specs might indicate. But using this for a longer time now, I can only see the size as an advantage. And why do I say that? So I've been flying the Mini 2, the Mini 3, and the Mini 4 Pro for a longer time now, so I kind of learned when and when not to fly this when it comes to different scenarios. And to be honest with you, I also fly this in pretty strong winds. But that said, the disadvantage with the Mini 4 Pro can also be the low weight, but it also depends on where you want to fly this drone. So if you bring this up towards a mountain, for example, and the peak of the mountain is your takeoff position, that means you'll be able to fly 120 meters higher than the peak of the mountain. And the higher you fly, the stronger the wind. And there's a high chance that you get carried away as well and want to fly around and capture the amazing views. And looking at the image right here, there's two peaks, one on each side. And this area in the middle here is where you don't want to fly your mini drone. When the wind comes in, or the trade winds, they will usually push through these peaks at a higher speed. And this is where you get that crazy amount of gusts and wind speeds that might actually flip the mini drone. So if you know you're gonna fly in places like these, you might want to step it up and go for something like the Mavic 3, Mavic 3 Classic, or maybe even the Air 3, which has a higher weight. But all of the scenarios where the wind is moderate to high, the Mini 4 Pro performs exceptional. Now, when it comes to higher temperatures like 40 to 50 degrees Celsius, I didn't experience any warnings or messages saying that the Mini 4 was too hot. This also comes down to the amount of wind you're flying in and if you're moving the drone or not. So if you fly in a windless condition and you want to shoot a time lapse, for example, I wouldn't place the drone above water and maybe not too high either, because the Mini 4 Pro doesn't have an internal fan, which means there's nothing that will cool it down. So you kind of have to rely on movement or some sort of wind. And when it comes to flying the Mini 4 Pro in colder temperatures like minus 20 degrees Celsius, it performs just as good as in high temperatures. However, if you don't keep the batteries warm pre-flight, you might experience a shorter flight time, so I recommend that you place the batteries inside your jacket or your car to keep them as warm as possible. Now, talking about flight time, the advertised flight time of the Mini 4 Pro is 34 minutes, just like the Mini 3 Pro. But in reality, you're never gonna get close to this if you want to shoot some amazing videos. So this is how it works in reality. The further away from the takeoff position you fly, the shorter flight time you'll have. Your flight time is also depending on the speed you travel, so flying in sports mode in combination with distance will drastically reduce your flight time. Personally, I'm getting about 24 minutes of flight time on average because I prefer to get as close as possible to what I want to film, even if it means I have to hike for a few hours. This also comes down to safety and if I should lose the drone. So if I hit something or something happens to the drone, there's a higher chance that I will manage to recover it than if I would stand at the ground level and fly up the mountain. And this also gives me more air time, which allows me to capture more footage. So a pro tip here is to get as close to where you want to fly as possible, and this will also make it both safer and more convenient when you're out traveling. Now let's talk about image quality. The Mini 4 Pro has a 1/1.3-inch CMOS sensor with a fixed aperture of f1.7, which gives you this amazing image. Of course, there's bigger and better drones with even better quality, but this is a 249-gram drone, and to me, the image quality coming from this is untouchable. We have 4K resolution up to 100 FPS and 4K HDR up to 60 FPS. Personally, I use 4K 30 HDR most of the time, but to be able to shoot some slow motion videos in 4K with the mini drone to fill up some B-roll, for example, is pretty awesome. And I mean, the 4K 100 FPS coming from this drone looks amazing. Now, I also have a trending video where I talk a little bit more about the image quality coming from the Mini 4 Pro. You might have seen it, but if you don't have, I'll leave a link to it down below. But now that I've been using the Mini 4 Pro for a longer time, I can honestly say that this is something I would buy. Of course, you have the Air 3 with zoom capabilities and a slightly better image quality, but for me, what makes it is the true vertical videos, even at 4K 100 FPS with active track. So there's basically no limitations between vertical and horizontal videos, so you can use active track, waypoints, cruise control, quick shots, master shots, slow motion, everything in both horizontal and vertical shooting mode. However, there is one con, or personally, I wouldn't categorize this as a con, but for some reason I see a lot of people doing it. The fixed aperture of f1.7 is extremely bright. This means there will be more light coming through the lens of the Mini 4 Pro compared to something like the Mavic 3, which has an adjustable aperture up to f11. So shooting videos during bright sunny days with the Mini 4 Pro without any filters, your shutter speed will be way too high. This means the footage will look sharper, have more contrast, or maybe look too unnatural. But most of the clips that you've seen in this video so far was actually shot without any filters, as they weren't available at the time. So what I mean is that you don't really need the ND filters in order to make your footage look great, but using ND filters will make it easier. To compensate for the higher shutter speed, you can also reduce the sharpness by lowering the sharpness to -2. This will reduce more of that contrasty over-sharpened look and give you a much better image. And this is what I did to capture these amazing shots in Hawaii just days after the release of the Mini 4 Pro. Now, since we're talking about image quality, the low light capabilities coming from the Mini 4 Pro, wow, it's just hands down impressive. Personally, I've never owned a drone this capable in low light, and it just makes me want to go out and shoot more low light videos. Both HLG, D-Log-M, and the low light video mode performs extremely good for what I'm doing, so for me this is more than enough to get the job done. There is one key element that I want to talk about when it comes to the Mini 4 Pro, which is the height limit, which is now locked in 2024. So if you had the Mini 4 Pro prior to this year, you had the option to remove the C0 label and still be able to fly up to 500 meters in 2024. But if you didn't request this removal, or if you want to buy a Mini 4 Pro now in 2024, you are now locked to a maximum height of 120 meters. So I want to give you my personal take on this, and to be honest, I don't really mind the 120 meter limit because I like to fly between 70 and 90 meters when I'm out traveling. Of course, sometimes I peak 120 just to get a higher bird's eye view, but I'm also a strong believer of that the further away, the higher you fly, the worse your image is gonna look. And for me personally, that loves to travel and make travel content, the closer I fly to subjects and objects, the better the videos will look. So that's one of the things and one of the reasons I don't really mind the 120 meter limit. And that's also the reason that I updated my Mini 4 Pro to the latest firmware to get some of the goodies as well. And the updated improved active track is 360, and as you can see, I still have my C0 label here, so I haven't removed it. So this drone is restricted to 120 meters. But to put things into perspective here, the Mini 4 Pro, the Mini 3 Pro, the Mini 3, the Mini 2, and so on, these are drones that were originally made for hobbyists to capture family moments, vacations, and so on. These were not made to be used for commercial purposes. That's why DJI has multiple drones. And the Mini series is also below 250 grams, which means it will cause less damage on impact if something should happen, which also means that we don't have as strict rules for these drones as we have with the Mavic 3 series, for example. And flying higher than 120 meters is also not allowed in most countries, so you would need to apply for a specific route if you're flying higher than 120. This also means that you'll have to apply with the exact coordinates you plan on flying, also the date and the time of the day you want to fly. So this is the entire process you have to go through in order to fly legally above 120 meters. But if you're already a content creator, or if you want to start up a brand new YouTube channel and you want to add a drone to fill up the aerial gaps that you might have missed out on by not having a drone, the Mini 4 Pro, despite the 120 meter limit, is an amazing drone. And just like my previous video, the main reason for picking the Mini 4 Pro over the Mini 3 Pro is the features you get. Even if the image quality is almost identical for 99% of what you'll end up using it for, it has additional features you won't see in the Mini 3 Pro, like waypoints, cruise control, active track, and the 360 obstacle avoidance system. Even though a lot of people are used to fly a mini drone without the 360 degrees obstacle avoidance sensors, the full 360 coverage allows us to have these features like waypoints and cruise controls. And I also got a lot of questions of when I think these amazing features will come to the Mini 3 Pro, and the answer is never. This is because it doesn't have a 360 obstacle avoidance sensors, which is required in order to use waypoints and all the features like cruise control and active track 360. Now, like I said, I've been flying the Mini 3 Pro and the Mini 4 Pro for a very long time now. That means I've been putting some hours into the RC2 and the RC controller, and I must say the differences between the RC1 and the RC2 controller is huge. I remember when I first started making videos with the Mini 3 Pro that my biggest concern and issue was the amount of lag I experienced prior to my flights, like changing settings, navigating through the menu, and so on. But with the RC2 controller, there is no lag whatsoever thanks to the new updated processor. And also the OcuSync 4.0 is a huge step up from 3.0 when it comes to range and signal, especially here in Norway and Europe. So the CE transmission has always been an issue when it comes to these drones, but now it's much easier to keep a consistent signal without having a dropout after 300 meters. But I guess it also comes down to what you need though. I haven't really had any issues with the Mini 3 Pro and the RC1 controller when it comes to everyday use. It's only the lag on the controller, but after using it for over a year now, I kind of get used to it, so I don't bother with it too much, and as long as I get up into the air and start my flight, the lag disappears. And I've been able to fly about 1,000 meters without any issues, and if you don't know it by now, I prefer to get as close to the area I want to fly as possible. So to me, range has never really been an issue. But if you usually fly or plan on flying in urban environments and prefer to fly to the area that you want to film, the Mini 4 Pro with the RC2 controller is about as good as it gets. So after using the Mini 4 Pro for 3+ months now, what are my favorite and least favorite things about this drone? First, let's start with the least favorite things and the things I want to see improved in the next generation of mini drones, and that would be snap-on propellers. I really prefer to have snap-on propellers because we have that on the bigger drones, and it also means that if you should bend your propellers, when you are putting it down into your backpack, this can happen because if you're not using the prop guards, the props can fall down like that and you kind of squeeze them and you can bend them. Or if you just damage them on impact, you still have to carry around the Phillips screwdriver to be able to change the propellers, which is a pain. This is small, it's easy to lose, and it's also a pain to use. So if there's one thing I would love to see improved on the next generation of mini drones, it would be snap-on propellers. And I think that when that's the only con that I can come up with after using it for 3+ months, I think that says a lot about this drone. Now let's talk about my favorite feature when it comes to the Mini 4 Pro, and I gotta say that is waypoints. Even though active track has got some tweaking and is now much better, waypoints takes it all. If I could choose one feature, it would be waypoints. I also made a full in-depth tutorial on how to make professional looking waypoint missions with easy everyday calculations, so make sure to check that out after this video. My other favorite things about the Mini 4 Pro is of course the true vertical shooting mode, which allows me to shoot high quality vertical videos, and this in combination with waypoints allows me to shoot the same clip in both vertical and horizontal with just a tap of a button. And of course we have D-Log-M, which is my favorite color profile. It's the easiest one to color grade in my opinion, and it's the profile that gives you the best dynamic range for the price, because if you want more dynamic range, a better color profile, you will have to opt in for a bigger drone like the Mavic 3, Mavic 3 Cine, and so on. So for the price that you pay for the Mini 4 Pro drone and to have HLG and D-Log M10B color profile, it's just amazing. And another thing I want to add as well is the weight of it, 249 grams, and you know, flying in moderate to high winds is not really that big of an issue. I have never had any issues flying the Mini 4 Pro, so to me the weight is not really an issue. I still don't get why so many people are complaining about the weight. Don't buy it. It can't, you know, shoot videos in high winds. Yeah, it can. That's the problem, it can. And I've been doing it for years with the Mini 2, Mini 3 Pro, and the Mini 4 now as well. So there's not really that much issues when it comes to flying this in moderate to high winds. So I guess the question is the Mini 4 Pro the best drone that you can buy in 2024? I would love to say yes, but I think this is individual, and the Mini 2 might still be the best drone for some, whilst the Mini Air 3 is the best drone for others. Personally, I couldn't ask for a better drone. It's never been easy to shoot travel content, and it all comes down to the features you have and the features you need. But if you don't need the features, but you prefer stunning 4K videos, the Mini 3 Pro is also an amazing drone. But the Mini 4 Pro is what I consider the best travel drone for everyone, beginner as pro. This has everything. I'm curious to know whether or not you have the Mini 4 Pro, and if you do, what is your favorite part about this? What's your least favorite part about it? And is it something that you're gonna get despite the 120-meter height limit? If you enjoyed today's video, let me know by dropping a like as well. That would be appreciated. And if you're brand new to this channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the next video. So once again, happy new year, and I will see you guys in the next video.